There's a certain kind of person whose mind rarely goes quiet, not because their life is more chaotic, but because their thoughts keep going deeper. They replay conversations long after they end. They notice tiny details others forget immediately. They ask questions that make people pause. Sometimes this makes them feel strange. Why do I think about things so much? Why can't I just move on like everyone else? A simple comment can stay in their mind for hours. A random moment from years ago suddenly returns, and a casual conversation can turn into a deep internal analysis. For a long time, many people like this quietly assume something is wrong. Maybe I overthink too much. Maybe my brain just won't slow down. But psychology suggests something different. What if this constant reflection isn't a weakness? What if it's actually a sign that your mind processes the world at a deeper level? Because people who think deeply often show certain patterns, subtle behaviors that appear in everyday life. And today, we're going to explore 10 hidden signs that you may be a deeper thinker than most people around you. You might recognize more of them than you expect. Here's the paradox. The deeper someone thinks, the more complicated life can feel. Most people rely on quick mental shortcuts. The brain prefers fast answers. Psychologists call this cognitive efficiency. It saves energy. It simplifies decisions. But deeper thinkers often resist those shortcuts. Instead of accepting the first explanation, their mind keeps exploring. Why did that happen? What does it actually mean? What might be happening beneath the surface? Neuroscience suggests that this style of thinking is closely linked to the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for analysis, reflection, and long-term reasoning. People who engage this system more frequently tend to examine experiences more carefully. But that depth comes with a strange side effect. The same mental ability that allows deeper understanding can also make the world feel heavier, more complex, and sometimes even exhausting. And that's why many deep thinkers spend years believing their thinking style is a flaw, when in reality, it may simply be the natural shape of their mind. Psychologists who study cognition and personality have noticed something interesting. People who think deeply tend to share certain behavioral patterns, not dramatic personality traits, not obvious signs, but small tendencies that appear in how they talk, observe, question, and reflect. These patterns often show up quietly in everyday life. In conversation, in decision-making, in how someone processes emotions. And when you begin to recognize them, a new perspective appears. What once felt like overthinking might actually be a sign of deeper awareness. Here are 10 hidden signs your mind may be working on a deeper level than most people realize. Sign 1. You feel comfortable sitting with unanswered questions. Most people feel uneasy when something lacks a clear explanation. The brain naturally wants closure. But deeper thinkers often tolerate uncertainty better than others. Instead of rushing toward a simple answer, they keep the question open. Curiosity replaces discomfort. Psychologists call this tolerance for ambiguity, a trait strongly associated with creative and analytical thinking. Sign 2. You notice patterns that other people overlook. Where someone else sees a random event, you see a pattern forming, a repeated behavior, a subtle shift in tone, a connection between past and present. Your brain is constantly linking new information with existing knowledge. This process is part of what psychologists call integrative thinking. It allows someone to see deeper structures behind everyday events. Sign 3. Small talk often feels strangely empty. It's not that you dislike people, but conversations that stay on the surface rarely hold your attention. You naturally move toward deeper topics. Ideas. Motivation, meaning people high in the personality trait openness to experience often report this same feeling. Their minds crave depth rather than repetition. Sign 4. Your inner dialogue is constantly active. Your mind frequently runs quiet internal conversations. You replay past moments. You analyze reactions. You imagine different possibilities. This activity is linked to the brain's default mode network, which becomes active when the mind turns inward. For deeper thinkers, this system tends to be especially engaged. But the next sign reveals something even more surprising. Sign 5. You feel emotions with unusual depth. Instead of simply feeling good or bad, you often identify complex emotional layers. Disappointment, nostalgia, bittersweet longing. Psychologists call this emotional granularity. It reflects a mind that analyzes emotional experiences with precision. Your brain doesn't just feel emotions, it tries to understand them. Sign 6. You frequently question your own thoughts. Deeper thinkers often engage in metacognition, thinking about thinking. You pause mid-assumption. You challenge your own beliefs. Where did that idea come from? Is that actually true? This habit can look like self-doubt from the outside, but internally, it reflects intellectual honesty. Sign sept. You need time alone to think clearly. Solitude is not isolation. For deeper thinkers, it's mental recovery. Social environments constantly demand attention, conversation, body language, noise. When alone, the brain can finally process thoughts without interruption. But there's another sign that many deep thinkers recognize immediately. Sign 8. You're drawn to understanding the deeper why behind things. Surface explanations rarely feel satisfying. You want to understand causes, motivation, underlying dynamics. Psychologists describe this trait as need for cognition. People high in this trait actually enjoy thinking. Insight itself becomes rewarding. Sign 9. You struggle with tasks that feel meaningless. If an action lacks purpose, motivation disappears. Your mind constantly looks for significance. This idea closely aligns with the psychological theories of Viktor Frankl, who argued that humans are deeply driven by meaning. For deeper thinkers, that drive becomes even stronger. Sign 10. You notice emotional shifts that others miss. A subtle change in someone's tone, an unspoken tension in a room, a hidden sadness beneath a smile. Deeper thinkers often process social signals more carefully. This heightened awareness can be insightful, but it can also create a strange feeling of quiet loneliness, because sometimes it feels like you're seeing layers others don't even notice. In modern society, speed is rewarded. Quick answers, fast reactions, immediate decisions. But deeper thinking moves in the opposite direction. It slows down. It questions assumptions. It examines complexity. In neuroscience, this often reflects stronger engagement of analytical brain networks. These systems take more cognitive energy, which is why deeper thinkers sometimes feel mentally drained after long periods of reflection. But that same depth also allows them to notice connections and meanings others overlook. From a psychological perspective, deeper thinking is not a personality flaw. It's a cognitive orientation. Some brains are simply wired to process experiences more thoroughly. They analyze information longer. They reflect more deeply. This style of thinking can produce creativity, insight, and emotional awareness. But it also requires balance. Without rest, the mind can become trapped in endless analysis. Healthy deep thinkers eventually learn when to explore ideas and when to let the mind rest. If many of these signs felt familiar, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It may simply mean your mind is built to look deeper, to question more, to notice subtle patterns. Yes, this way of thinking can sometimes feel heavy, but it also brings something rare: awareness. The ability to see complexity in a world that often prefers simplicity. And once you understand the way your mind works, something important changes. What once felt like overthinking may begin to look like something else entirely. A mind that refuses to stop searching for meaning. So now I'm curious, how many of these signs felt familiar to you? Let me know in the comments below.